So, you have a youngster that is getting ready for their next transitional year. If you have a child that is in the K through 8, this is definitely the place to be. So, I am your host, Audrey Codner for Two Tutors Talking. Just wanted to reach out to you so you get to know all the different types of tutors that are out there. I'll give you a moment as a parent to ask questions so you be able to have the right person for the right fit to help your child do any kind of advancement. So for today, I definitely have the honor and the privilege to have Miss Jasmine Mack with us that's here for Two Tutors Talking. So I am not talking by myself. So hello,
Hey,
Miss
hey
Jasmine.
Audrey, how are
Welcome.
you?
I am
Yes,
well,
rocking the purple, loving it.
right? So,
How are
I mean, we're just here. Jasmine and I have been working together for about like 5 weeks, going on six. Just talking about different ways that we can like promote our tutoring, but then this is just another way to share
you?
what exactly Jasmine does and how to better support your child. So I am actually going to be passing the mic over to Miss Jasmine by can you give us a little background about yourself before we get down to the nitty of the gritty?
Awesome. Yes. So, hello, everyone. My name is Jasmine, and I am a kindergarten through eighth grade math tutor and coach. So, I help students build their math skills using art techniques like color theory and doodling to help reduce their anxiety and increase their confidence. So, through personalized one on one sessions, we can help your student rise and grow skills that they need to thrive outside of the classroom. So, I wasn't always in education, I actually was a designer and an artist. And then after doing some programming and stepping into the classroom, I was able to combine those passions into one. So using those design techniques to help increase retention and learning with pairing with teaching of the math and building of those skills. So I was a designer that's now an educator, helping our young ones know their numbers.
Oh, how interesting is that? Because a lot of people will be like, oh, it's kind of separate. But as you can see, there's definitely like a lot of math within our designs.
Yes.
Um, like talk a little bit more about that. Like how do you really connect the two, or how did you think of like connecting the two?
Yeah. So the step that I took was through like STEAM. So, that's science, technology, engineering. They added art and math. So within that, that was like that stepping stone. So seeing math in everything, the golden ratio you might hear is used a lot in design. So the marketing campaigns that are like really eye catching, that's like a ratio that's always used from different, the seashells and like a nautical shell, that's like math. So
Mhm.
art and design within nature and how numbers relate, bring that back to math and how it can be practical. Plus, using art, it makes it fun because I've heard math can be boring. I don't really like it. How do we take this intangible thing and make it tangible? So by doing hands-on projects, incorporating those techniques to help us remember, that's how we like bridge the gap. So there is a lot of art and math. There's a lot of math and art. So when you're able to start seeing those connections, it's like, yo, it's great.
Right. So I know a lot of people usually see it like as patterns. And if we wanted to put it into basic terms, but if you want to put it in mathematical terms, you have that factorization, which your child is actually going to learn that when they
Yes.
see me in high school. But it's just like everyone always thinks of like, oh, it's such a cool design, and it just kind of comes up. But it's like how you keep that pattern going
Yeah.
is there is a math sequence that comes with it.
Yes,
So that's
absolutely.
why we kind of talk a little bit about it and to bring it up early on, which is great. So if this is your first time watching, if you are watching it live, please go ahead and hit hashtag live. If you're watching it at the replay, hit hashtag replay because it helps with the algorithm. A lot of people like when I do all this.
Yes. Okay.
Because it does. It helps with the algorithm so more and more people can actually see what we're going through. I
Yeah.
was going to ask the question of what makes you unique, but you already stated that, anyone that puts in doodling. Now, to think about it, before we know it, it's time to start back to school.
Right.
You notice some people, some teachers will always say, if you see your child doodling, that means they're bored or they're doing something else. They're not
Mm,
doing what they're supposed to do. It's always like a negative
right.
content. But you're putting it on a positive spin. Like
Yes,
you're actually
absolutely.
saying, putting it on there. Go ahead and elaborate on that. Like, how do
Definitely,
you?
because I know I'm a visual learner, so being able to visually map it out makes it easier to grasp. So that's kind of the path that I like to teach our students. So yeah, they might be drawing some shapes, but it's helped them to make something that's intangible like numbers, making it visual to helping with that understanding. So it's not like random little flowers in the corner. It's like educated, like mapping out like on your notes, like graphically to help you remember, retain, and memorize. So it's like, hey, here's some boxes here. You can use different colors. Like blue is really good for helping you remember things. So writing in blue ink, studies have shown that when you want attention, red, it's very like hard, contrasting, really grabs your attention. So incorporating those into how you can like lay out your notes in a way of like sketching and doodling, that's how we can retain it. So it's not just, the random drawings, even though that's like fun, it's organizing your thoughts so that you can go over your notes and understand it.
And I know a lot of adults when they're like, oh, different colors. My child's supposed to be doing math in pencil because that's what I was told. And you're like,
Absolutely.
yeah, we get it. But when it comes to notes, because a lot of that note taking skill is not being taught in the classrooms anymore.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
So
Oh my goodness.
go ahead. It
Yes.
just
I
seems
wish
like,
I understand because under resourced, being stretched a lot, and you're not able to really go through your lessons to make that time to really teach it. But it is so important, especially I've seen in my students in middle school, transitioning before high school, not really knowing how to take notes, how to keep up. They're going too fast. I can't keep it down. I'm trying to write everything down. It's like, you can't write everything down. You gotta use text shorthand to make sure that you're like getting it together, or having a process where you can streamline that. So I like to also incorporate that in as well, of like, say, if you have like something you can fall back on when taking your notes, to do so. So 2-column is really well with like different steps. Like I said, write every step out until it's second nature, until you know it.
now, what about like especially our special ed population? Like no, just trying to go from board to paper is always like you lose so much when you do that whole board to paper, and that's why a lot of teachers just like made, here's a copy of my notes, but at the same time, those are the teacher's notes. So
Right.
some of that is also lost in translation. Like, do you think the whole doodling process will help with even our special ed population?
I think so too. I think a nice happy medium or compromise could be, excuse me, doodle notes. So making something a little more artsy, graphical, laying out, excuse me, with that will also help with that. So a teacher can have maybe a blank paper or it's already written out, and then the student can just fill in or color different portions to help them. So they're still interacting with the information, even though it's already presented before them. So having that happy medium of like guided notes. So it's there, but you still got to write a little bit in, even though it's not everything, like you said, from board to paper. So having like their templates, setting those up and making it age appropriate. So like younger students,
Mhm.
they're still learning how to write. So they'll need a little bit more space to be able to work with that. And then older students, you can make it a little bit, smaller. So I think having that, it's a nice layout. They can kind of color it in a little bit. So it's fun, but they're really learning. So it's like, okay,
Yes.
a little sugar with the medicine, help it go down. A
Right.
little bit like that.
I mean, and that's exactly, and even though we're sitting here talking about most of these are tactics that people will say, oh, that's K through 8. No, these are things that even when I was in high school, like I actually
Yes.
had my kids do different color notes. Like you should be
Yes.
copying the way that I'm copying it, or,
For
to
sure.
help retain. And a lot of them said with them switching just to different color pens or just having a
Yes.
highlight different color highlighters and actually saying that, okay, you can mark as a key on the very top of your page, like yellow is going to be the generalization, red,
Yes.
well, obviously red was always weird, but it was like the pink would be your things to remember, or like green, if it was a light neon green, it can't be the
Yes.
dark green because you're gonna be like, what did I write?
Exactly. Highlights. Nothing too crazy. I always recommend like maybe 2 to 3, no more than that, because then it's starting to really kind of go all over the place. But having, like you said, that key of when I see this color, I associate that information.
I mean, it's just like, it's awesome. Now, what are some of the things that you're noticing in your sessions? Like when finally you're getting a student coming in, parent will say, look, my child is struggling. And of course, ever since the pandemic, things
Yeah.
just kind of got all kinds of crazy.
Yeah.
And then kids are trying to adjust. What are some things that you're noticing in your tutoring sessions?
I've noticed a couple things. I think the first one was maybe the lack of emphasis on math fluency. So really knowing your addition facts, subtraction, times tables, and division. So not really putting an emphasis to learn them, not just memorize, but really understand how the numbers relate to one another. I think that has also been a gap, but it's understandable. Crunching time, you're really just trying to, teach to the test. You're not building that foundation that will allow students to pass the test and be successful. So I've noticed definitely that area of just numeracy, numbers, relations is kind of the gap is starting to increase. I've also noticed the attention span has shortened. So I like to keep my sessions between 30 minutes, no more than 45, because after that 30 minutes, just kind of like a TV show, the attention is whoop, it's starting to go. They're ready to move on to the next thing. And after that, you do get mental fatigue. You can get like decision fatigue and using a lot of energy. So after like 30 minutes, it's like, okay, we can stop, we can pause. And having smaller, multiple sessions throughout the week can sometimes be more beneficial than like an hour, like once a week. So really breaking it up to get those reps, to get those repetition going in has been really helpful. So those are two things I've definitely noticed. And I've seen improvement in those smaller chunks over time for long-term success. Not just, okay, we did well on this test, but like really building that foundation for their success.
Right. Because I think what you're saying, one, with the notes, having those connections, two, having that exposure, not only because I know probably a lot of kids probably have gone to coach class or after school help, and everyone thinks that, okay, the one major thing that I definitely want to address to parents, if I haven't done so already, is don't ask for extra worksheets unless you know your child is doing and they just want some extra practice to solidify the understanding. That's fine. But if your child is lost, don't pile on more work. It
Right.
just doesn't make sense. But I understand because that's what was told to them when
Right.
they were growing up.
Yeah.
And I know you didn't like it
Oh
when you're
my
like,
gosh.
all
When those
right,
time tests or those things, side eye was very hard. Like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. So it was forced in because it stuck there, but it was so uncomfortable
yes,
with that. So like, yeah, I got it, but it was not a fun process. And
no,
it just wasn't. So it's like, no, really understanding the relationships and sometimes the why. Like, you got to understand the why of how this comes together. Now, depending on the topic, it can go really deep. That's when the higher level math, like, this is
right,
why 1+1=2. And it's like boards
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
gibberish, what looks gibberish to me. Like I said, I stick with K through 8. That's my lane. But understanding the why of how it came together can be very, very helpful. Seeing it visually, like, oh, this is what's happening. So I like to do like base 10 blocks. So you doing like pieces for like ones, tens, and hundreds, and moving those pieces around. So you see, oh, this is what's going on in the background when you're just carrying and regrouping and like the standard method that's taught in school. Like, oh yeah, this is what we're actually doing. This is a shortcut method, but this with the blocks moving show you the relationship.
yes. Now, talking about the blocks moving, how is that possible? I know it's going to sound strange for online tutoring or online learning, because I know we've made that transition, but we have to remember that a lot of parents are just still getting into the notion of online tutoring, online learning. They always say, I think my child works better when someone's in the room with them.
Right.
And of course, I'm like, well, you're in Chicago. I'm in Baltimore, Maryland. Unless
Right.
you are renting me a jet, yeah, it's not going to happen. But how is it done in like during your sessions to do at least the base 10s?
The base 10s, I like to have movable objects. So if we're on our whiteboard, so having movable pieces, so little blocks maybe on a Jamboard, so squares of different sizes with value that the student is actually moving around. There's also a lot of good online programs that already have those movable pieces built in. So that's how they're using it. So it would be the same kind of manipulatives we would use in person, is just online in a digital format. So it'd be like pictures or like sticky notes that you can kind of move around and interact. So that's how we would do it, to see the pieces moving, to understand those relationships, even though there is distance. So there's still that hands-on learning, that interaction, that the student is actually doing it and they're seeing it going forward.
And that's important because here's the thing. Even though you're probably saying, well, that means I could just do the system myself. But here's the thing, you're getting someone that knows it, that can guide your child.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people always have that whole notion of, yeah, we can do it ourselves. And I'm like, okay, well, a lot of kids tried to do that themselves 2 years ago. And now we're really starting to see a gap, especially those foundational pieces. Like for me, I have like the secondary kids, like middle school, high school, and some college.
Okay.
And that 2 years really, because once they got the notion that all you have to do is like log on. Well, for us in Maryland, it was like if you logged on once during the pandemic, you automatically pass the class, and they just moved you to the next part. And if those kids were taking, oh, I know, really, yeah, the struggle's real.
Mm. Mm.
And
Okay.
algebra one, especially if they were taking algebra one or any of those foundational skills like pre-algebra, then all of a sudden now they're in geometry and algebra two. And the part that they struggle with is a lot of the basic foundational algebra one skills. And I support my teachers all the way, but I was not supporting teachers when they said, well, you learned this already. And I want to say
Ooh.
they didn't, because you probably had a really good teacher that was like, hey, here's some videos of me breaking stuff down to you, and I want you to come on. Like I was one of those people. But then there were some people that didn't have that.
Right.
There's a lot of teachers that left. There was a lot of teachers, health reasons, they're no longer here. So there's so many different factors that
For
plays
sure.
into it. So I think we're all saying that there's nothing wrong with getting
Right.
a tutor, to get someone that's
Absolutely.
their expertise. Just like how you said, K through 8, that's my lane. Like for me, 7 on up to like maybe first year of college, that's good. Like
Gotcha.
I'm calculus, that's not me. I have so many other friends. I'm
But I
like,
know
hey,
somebody. For
exactly. And I can hook you up. So then you don't have to run around anymore to try to
Right.
find somebody. I can help you with that. So we also do
Absolutely.
all that.
Yes, there's nothing
But
wrong, like you said, with getting that help. Just like your favorite athletes, they have teams of people that help them. Getting a coach or getting a tutor is just another person on your team. Like Michael Jordan didn't do it by himself. LeBron didn't do it by himself. Steph Curry, I love basketball. They didn't do it by themselves. They had coaches. They had physical therapists. They had assistant coaches and people that were helping them craft so that they could do what they needed to do on the court. It's the same thing in the classroom. Get a tutor that can help your kid do what they need to do in the classroom.
yes. And then I loved how you said about athletes. Basketball person here too.
Yeah, I used to play
But
too,
especially,
retired, yeah.
right? We're all retired. The knees retired before I did. But
Yeah.
we have to do our things. But that's one thing that I also like to emphasize, especially for those young students, even though we're talking K through 8, but that's when you really need to start emphasizing academics as well as athletics. Because if you don't have the academics, you can kiss any kind of scholarship that you're thinking of
Yeah.
goodbye. It's nice to know that people want to the NIL, contracts. And it's great that that's an opportunity. But at the same time, if you don't understand the basic knowledge of mathematics or how to do accounting or the importance of money, oops, there we go. And just kind of floating by and just trying to figure things out. Right. So when it comes to that whole academics, please, parents, I know you want them to have the sweet jump shot. I know you want them to run faster on the field. I love to see people on the track with their little babies with the parachute. I'm like, that baby about to blow away. It's windy. They're like doing this. Also, you see them.
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
Just because of that, don't all forget to push the academic piece, because when they get into ninth grade, it makes the transition so much easier, because remember, that's a huge jump. 8 to 9, 6 to 7, third to fourth, even first to second, these are those major, as I like to call, transition years.
Yeah.
And I mean, Jasmine's like really hitting hard on the major transition years. If something's missing, you need to work on that.
It's never too late. It's never too late to learn fluency. It's never too late to really get those skills. Putting in that time, you can do it. I've had middle schoolers, who, like I said, during the pandemic, they were in middle school, maybe 5th, 6th grade. You just log on, moved on. That still needed that time, but we were able to work together and get them on grade level, so that those, like you said, those transition years were so much smoother. So it's never too late. Get started as soon as you think it might be an issue, or you just want to be preventative. Like, we're doing well, but we want to excel. So it's never too late. There is no shame. I needed a tutor growing up as well. And they inspired me. And I'm like, yes, I want to be that person, that teacher, that tutor for me that I wish I had. So I'm glad to be here and helping our babies learn their numbers.
Yes, because it was tough. For me, it's like once they started putting letters and numbers together, I
got beef with math.
A little goner.
X, why are we looking for your X? I can't. It sounds toxic to me. Like, no.
It's just a faster way of getting through and processing. And I know a lot of people will say, well, why do I need to learn this? And it doesn't matter what age, they always like, why do I have to learn, especially the different versions of math now, depending on what state you're in, depending on what district, sometimes what school. Everyone has like a different thing. Like Singapore math is pretty big here in Maryland. We have Singapore math, we have Eureka math. And I'm like, no matter how they arrange it, let me tell you, 2 plus 2, 2 times 2, 2 squared will still give you 4. Okay. And then you're adding these processes because, one, you're helping them think outside the box.
Yes.
And generally, let's be truthful, that's what generally happens to most of these assessments. Most of the middle school assessments or SATs, ACTs, they're all surrounded by that. So sometimes that's why they have a lot of these things in place. But you need someone to translate it. Get a tutor.
Absolutely.
Just get a tutor. And it's perfectly fine. You're not stuck with us forever.
Right.
So, upcoming attractions for you. Like, when are you available for sessions? Because I know this is the summer, but some people might want to start before school officially starts. And I know next week, North Carolina is going to be starting or opening their doors to their kids. Good luck, Georgia. Or North Carolina.
Okay.
That is not us. We're much later. But what are some of the upcoming attractions for you and your tutoring service?
Yes, so I do have some slots available. So if you want to get a head start for the school year and get prepped for upcoming grade, or just review what was learned over the summer or before the summer, because summer slide is real, not having that routine of practicing and all that work you went in now has left. So I do have slots open for kindergarten through 8th grade for some personalized one-on-one. So we'll really dive deep into those weaker areas that we can work on, maintaining those strong areas, and really crafting a plan for their own success moving into the school year. So I have slots available for one-on-one and pairing. So if you got like a brother or a sister or a cousin, y'all working on the same stuff, we can all like work together and moving forward. So I'll say that's the biggest one is I am available for those. You can reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook at HeyJasmineK. So like hey, Jasmine like the T and then the letter K, like my display name. Or you can email me at the same thing, HeyJasmineK at gmail.com. So reach out, do a trial lesson. So I am doing a few trial lessons if you want to check it out, see how this online tutoring is going to really work for your student, and let's move forward with that.
Nice. And did you say that was in Gmail? I just
Yes,
want to make
at
sure I
Gmail.
typed it
Yes.
out.
So HeyJasmineK at gmail.com.
Okay, so here is her email address, just in case you want to reach out to her. For some reason, I thought I had it typed up, but that's life. Here we are. But you can definitely reach out to Jasmine here for HeyJasmineK at gmail.com. She's also on Facebook under Jasmine Mack, and then also Instagram under HeyJasmineK.
Yes.
So I thank you. I thank you so much for coming in and just
Thank
sharing all this great
you.
knowledge. This was amazing.
This
I was
was
like,
this
no
was
one.
great. Thank you for inviting me. This has been really good just to kind of chat about it and just helping our students. Like we're out here to help. So we got our part, we got our team, we have our village. So we are here.
Yes, yes, well said. And then, of course, I'm going to shove my little closing in. If you so happen to be a tutor that is looking for a nice home to go to, to chit chat and to figure things out for your tutoring program and how you can maybe also be on Two Tutors Talking, I do have a Facebook group called From the Classroom to Online Tutoring. Just go ahead and make sure you fill out all 4 of the questions because I will reject you. Um, and just fill out all 4 of the questions and to get you in, and then we get you talking as well and coming here. And then we have a special edition tomorrow. We're going to have Miss Natasha Johnson. She's also a math tutor. I know you're like, Audrey, do you just do math tutors? Like, no, I do everybody. I have Spanish, I have English. Last night we had a special ed director.
Yes,
I
that
do
was
everyone.
great.
Okay, Kathy is on point. So if
Oh,
there's a replay out there if you ever want to get to see that anyone, or you can just go to my YouTube channel and type in Ask Audrey and you can see the replays for all the Ask Audreys, or type in Two Tutors Talking and you can see all the replays of all 13. Lucky 13, that's my favorite number.
hey.
All 13 of the episodes of Two Tutors Talking, which you can actually see on YouTube's podcast. And but Miss Natasha, she teaches not only high school, but she teaches adults. So if you're
Yeah.
an adult that's thinking about going back to school and you might have to take those immediate math classes because it's been a major minute since you have seen math, this will be the perfect episode for you to also watch. And that's going to be tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So again, this is Audrey Codner introducing you guys to Miss Jasmine Mack, and this is Two Tutors Talking. Thank you for coming by, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you,
Bye
y'all.
now.
Happy mathing. Look forward to